Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. This webinar consists of 3 parts, and its purpose is to introduce you to the concept of ocean literacy, if, of course, you're not already familiar with it, and to help you see how interconnected humans are with the oceans and how all of us can make a difference in protecting our oceans through even the smallest of changes. So we're pleased to welcome you to our Ocean Literacy webinar, prepared in the context of the MedSkippers project. My name is Martha Papathanasiou, and together with my colleague Fedra Bazigu, we're representing IndigoMed, a partner in the MedSkippers project, which started at the end of 2018 and will go on until November 2021. Its aims are to improve training and recognition of professional skippers of small commercial vessels, with the ultimate goal of boosting charter and nautical tourism. The project would further like to facilitate international mobility for both employment opportunities and training, and to build on the existing skill sets of skippers. Lastly, it is soon launching an application for those skippers willing to find a job in the charter sector and offer their services to potential clients. So do check out our website for more news on this. Now onto our webinar. The webinar consists of 3 parts. First, we're going to introduce you to the term of ocean literacy. What do we actually mean by ocean literacy? And its 7 essential principles. The second part is going to focus on the Mediterranean Sea literacy, and the Mediterranean Sea as a hotspot. Also, how ocean literate customers nowadays ask for ocean literate skippers. In the last part, we're going to show you some best practices concerning ocean literacy and everyday life, and how you too can become part of the solution. Now, let's start by introducing you to the world of ocean literacy by first immersing you to our blue planet, planet Earth. The importance and the magnitude of the ocean is so clear when looking at Earth from space. In fact, as Arthur C. Clarke said, how inappropriate to call this planet Earth when it's quite clearly ocean. The need to focus on our ocean and educate people on its importance, as well as its inextricable connection to humans, brought about the Ocean Literacy Campaign in the US back in the 1990s. This was a wide-ranging, collaborative, and decentralized effort by scientists and educators to create a more ocean literate society. So the definition of ocean literacy, well, it's an understanding of the ocean's influence on you and your influence on the ocean. An ocean literate person can understand the importance of the ocean to humankind, can communicate about it in a meaningful way, and of course is able to make informed and responsible decisions regarding the ocean and its resources. So, what is it that we need to know about the ocean, and what do we need to understand about it? Some quick facts about our ocean. Well, phytoplankton in the ocean produce oxygen that we breathe. The ocean, of course, as you all know very well, regulates our climate by transferring heat across the globe. It is, of course, a great source of fresh water, heat, and medicine. Also, the sea, as of course all of you know, connects people, ideas, and goods around the world. It is a place for relaxation, recreation, and employment. And of course, we all impact the ocean through what we put into it and what we take out of it. So moving on to the principles of ocean literacy, the Earth, the number 1 principle that we're going to explore is that the Earth has one big ocean with many features. The Earth has 7 continents, but one ocean that covers 70% of the Earth's surface, which can be best visualized when viewing the globe from the South Pole. The world ocean has been traditionally divided into 4 major ocean basins: the Arctic, the Atlantic, the Indian, and the Pacific. The self-evident proof that the Earth has one big ocean is the global ocean conveyor belt, an interconnected circulation system that moves water throughout all of the ocean basins, transporting energy, heat, matter, and organisms around the ocean. The seafloor itself hides a variety of different and very impressive features. Mountain ranges with more volcanoes than all those on land, mid-ocean ridges formed along divergent plate boundaries, where new ocean floor is created as the Earth's tectonic plates spread apart. trenches formed along the convergent plate boundaries, along which lithospheric plates move towards each other. The Mariana Trench in the Western Pacific Ocean is the deepest location in the Earth. That even if you placed Mount Everest at the bottom of it, the peak would still be almost 2 kilometers below sea level. Our next principle, number 2, the ocean and life in the ocean shape the features of the Earth. Over geologic time, the sea dominates the land. Most of the rocks exposed on land were laid down underwater when sea level was higher than today. Limestone and chert, widely used, are, for example, biological products created from the bodies of microscopic sea life foraminiferans and coccoliths. The fact is that all matter on Earth cycles: water, carbon, nutrients. The water cycle, for example, is composed of the interconnections between water reservoirs in the environment and living organisms and the physical processes through evaporation and condensation. The oceans contain about 97% of the total water on the planet, which leaves about 3% as fresh water. The ocean has also a very important role in shaping the coast, not just in hurricanes, but in the persistent work of erosion and deposition by waves and tides. Here are some very impressive artworks of the sea. But did you ever know, for example, that the origin of Vesuvius is oceanic? Mount Vesuvius was actually created through the convergence of a continental plate and an oceanic plate. The oceanic part of the African plate is pushing beneath the continental part of the Eurasian plate, which was pushed upward and created Mount Vesuvius, a deep ocean volcano in the Bay of Naples. Now, our next principle: the ocean is a major influence on weather and climate. The ocean has had and will continue to have a significant influence on climate by absorbing, storing, and moving heat, carbon, and water. Here are some very simple examples of how the ocean plays a vital role in the water and carbon cycles, acting as a climate and weather moderator. Rain comes from evaporated seawater, transferring not just water, but also solar energy. Sea plants produce most of the world's oxygen. Seawater takes up half the carbon dioxide put into the air, preventing rising atmospheric temperatures. And the currents of the sea carry warmth from the tropics towards the poles. As the currents shift, the climate shifts as well. Nevertheless, extreme effects of ocean to climate happen often and have destructive implications for human and nature. I'm sure you've all have heard of the El Niño. That's one of them. It is associated with a band of warm ocean water that develops in the central and east central equatorial Pacific, including the area off the Pacific coast of South America. You may have heard that El Niño years are characterized by an unusual extension of warm water across the Pacific Ocean, illustrated in the shades of red in the image below, and their cycle can last from 2 to 7 years, significantly influencing weather patterns, ocean conditions, and marine fisheries across large portions of the globe. On the other hand, the ocean can affect the climate in surprising ways. Asparagopsis taxiformis is a Hawaiian red algae that lives in the ocean. Recently, researchers demonstrated that feeding ruminants a diet that contains 1 to 2% of this algae reduced their methane emissions by over 90%. And well, this is actually very good in terms of climate change. Principle 4, the ocean makes the earth habitable. Well, life in the ocean gave the atmosphere all of its oxygen, starting in the Proterozoic Eon, billions of years ago. Life itself actually arose in the ocean. Most of the oxygen in the atmosphere originally came from the activities of photosynthetic organisms in the ocean. This accumulation of oxygen in the Earth's atmosphere was necessary for life to develop and to be sustained on land. The role of plankton is interconnected with life on Earth. Zooplankton acts as a living biological pump of carbon, constituting the ocean the largest carbon sink on Earth, while phytoplankton produces more than half of the oxygen in our atmosphere. Imagine that the photosynthetic phytoplankton Prochlorococcus provides the oxygen for 1 in every 5 breaths we take. The ocean supports a great diversity of life and ecosystems. The living space in the ocean is vastly greater than the habitats of the land. Likewise, there are more major groups of living things in the sea than on land. Ocean life includes floaters, swimmers, and burrowers, and some deep ecosystems depend on chemical energy without any input from the sun. Ocean life ranges in size from the smallest living things, microbes, which are practically invisible, to the largest animal on Earth, which are blue whales. They can reach up to 32 meters long. All these species take part in a diverse, simple, to a more complex food web that can link more than 1,000 species. The connections in the web actually represent the transfer of energy with every meal. The web is a map of all the trophic interactions in an ecosystem or community. And those are predator-prey interactions. We're talking about who eats whom. The ocean also sustains a great variety of ecosystems, characterized by different levels of biodiversity. Rich biodiversity, for example, is found in the estuaries and reefs. Both are delicate environments, and these support the world's greatest abundances of life. But the truth is that much of the ocean is actually a desert. Now, back to the beginning. The ocean and humans are inextricably interconnected. The ocean presents us with both resources and hazards. We breathe out the ocean. We extract foods, minerals, anti-cancer and painkiller medicines from it, and commerce actually relies on sea routes. Most of the population lives near it, and it is a major recreational attraction. Conversely, though, ocean storms, tsunamis, and sea level change all threaten coastal lives. But in turn, humans affect the ocean in how we exploit, modify, pollute, and regulate our activities in it. These are all matters that concern us all. One of the most interesting principles is principle number 7. The ocean is largely unexplored. Our ocean and its creatures are largely unexplored because of its magnitude and its extreme, at least for humans, environments. Imagine that we know more about the surface of the moon than the oceanic floor. As our reliance on the ocean continues to grow, marine science will be even more important in maintaining the ocean's health and value, not just in satisfying our curiosity. Exploring the ocean takes many different talents: biologists, chemists, technicians, programmers, physicists, engineers, and geologists. For example, scientists have built a camera that approximates how sharks see each other in the big depths, revealing how they glow through biofluorescence. Another interesting technology developed are the grapefruit-sized devices that act like plankton, bobbing at a constant depth in the ocean and measuring factors like water temperature. By studying these underwater explorers, scientists hope to better understand how plankton, major contributors of the Earth's oxygen, thrive and travel through the sea. It takes new kinds of instruments and programs. It also takes new ideas, maybe yours or your children's. New technologies, sensors, and tools are expanding our ability to explore the ocean. Scientists are relying more and more on satellites, drifters, buoys, subsea observatories, and unmanned submersibles. Skippers, of course, can also play an important role in helping scientists exploring the sea all along their sailing routes. And if you're interested in activities in this field, you can always visit the Vendée Globe Initiative. You can check that out. And you can find some more information on what skippers have done to help collect information along their sailing routes. So this concludes part 1 of the webinar. Now we're moving on part 2, the Mediterranean Sea. So the Mediterranean Sea is an ecoregion that is remarkable for its climate, and it's the common sea that links 3 continents, for the richness of its biodiversity, for its classical heritage, and the diversity of its landscapes and its cultural places, for the feeling of belonging to the populations of the 3 shores. It is also an invaluable international marine resource in trouble. It is home to an unusually diverse flora and fauna. However, it's also impacted by a wide variety of stressors. This is why marine scientists and educators apply the idea of ocean literacy to the Mediterranean region specifically, to sensitize, but mostly to educate people to take responsible decisions for their sea. The Mediterranean Sea Literacy was developed to understand the services provided by the Mediterranean Sea, the connection to its people, and to help understand the need for sustainable development in the region. It was developed following the form of the ocean literacy principles, as you can see. And the draft version of the Mediterranean Sea Literacy also consists of 7 principles and 46 concepts, which describe the different aspects of the Mediterranean and its connection to the people and society. The Mediterranean Sea Literacy provides fundamental knowledge about the Mediterranean to educators, teachers, scientists, NGOs, the blue economy and business sector, to policymakers and the general public. And it's trying to help raise awareness and achieve a blue and sustainable Mediterranean region at all levels of society. So if you're interested in finding out more about this, you can check it out online at the MZ website and also at the MZ Med group on Facebook. Now, the Mediterranean Sea as a hotspot. Even though the Mediterranean only covers less than 1% of the world's ocean area, it's one of the major reservoirs of marine and coastal biodiversity, with 28% of endemic species and 7.5% of the world's marine fauna and 18% of its marine flora. This little semi-closed sea is very rich in islands and underwater beds, and it's also a major area of wintering, reproduction, and migration. All of these facts together constitute the Mediterranean Sea as one of the world's 25 hotspots for biodiversity. But apart from being a biodiversity hotspot, it is also a touristic hotspot and an important sailing destination, as aware and sure that you all very well know. Some of its characteristic biotopes are Posidonia meadows and the coralligenous beds, deep sea coral communities, underwater caves, dune areas, coastal forests, and Mediterranean lagoons and wetlands. Now, let's talk a bit about the modern world, modern needs, and the modern customers, all again from the ocean literacy perspective that we've been discussing. New customers and new tourists are now environmentally and ocean aware, and nowadays they make more environmentally conscious decisions. They choose between sailing and motorboats, depending on the type of the touristic experience that they want, of course, the slow versus the fast life. They care if the engine and the propeller of the boat are well maintained so that the boats do not consume excess energy and do not harm the environment as a consequence. Also, they might wonder what kind of anti-fouling agent is used to protect the boat. Other questions they might have is, do skippers respect the protected areas in the marine environment in general? Do they avoid using plastic, for example, on the boat? Do they also offer ocean literacy activities along their sailing journey? So this new generation might well be asking, this new generation of tourists might be wondering if skippers are they becoming more ocean literate, and do they make better informed decisions about the environment? These are just some examples that we're considering, but of course there'll be time for questions at the end, so you can also comment or ask questions and bring up the discussion if you have anything more to add. But it's things like that that modern customers might be wondering and might be asking from modern skippers these days. So moving on, I think we got an idea of what a skipper can do, but there are things, not just skippers, but in our everyday lives, there are things that we can all do to make even the smallest change, but it can have a big effect on the environment. So in the previous slide, we saw what skippers can do, but in the following slides, we want to show you what all of us can do in our daily lives to help with the protection of our oceans. So for example, on the commute, what can we do to make a change? So for example, we can take public transport or carpool to reduce our use of fossil fuels. Other tips, if we wait for over 30 seconds in our car, we can turn the engine off to reduce carbon emissions and also save fuel. Another thing, again, as we mentioned with the boat, same thing with the engine of our car, take care of the car. Leaking oils can get into the drainage system. Inflating our cars correctly will boost our fuel mileage and reduce emissions. Things like that in our everyday life can help, as increases in CO2 and other greenhouse gases contribute to ocean acidity and global warming. And these changes can affect ocean ecosystem and harm marine life. Also, waste oils, increased fuel consumption, and irresponsible disposal of litter all damage the environment. So minimizing waste minimizes also the negative impact on the environment. These are just some suggestions, not just for skippers, but for all of us to make in our everyday life. Things that we can do as in the bathroom, for example, again, in our everyday lives, we can return unwanted medicines to the pharmacy. We don't flush them down the toilet. We can avoid products that contain microbeads. Can check the label for that. And also there's an application we can download at www.beatthemicrobead.org. And you can find out more information there. Also, we never flush plastic down the toilet, and we make sure we use eco-friendly products and dispose of them responsibly. Another quick tip is to save water and energy by taking shorter showers and by reusing towels. These are all things you can also, of course, recommend to your customers, and to things that you can do yourself as well quite easily in your daily lives. And these things can easily, quickly help. For example, unwanted pharmaceuticals quite often, if they're not removed by domestic sewage, can enter the marine environment and cause harm to marine animals. Also, many bathroom products that contain microbeads can attract toxins and can be ingested by fish and shellfish. And obviously, as you understand, this can also end up on your plate. Also, you all know the big problems with plastic waste that goes into the ocean every year. Is about 8 million tons can enter the ocean every year, and it takes a long time to break down and can choke or harm marine animals. And of course, conserving water reduces wastewater and entering treatment systems. So these are small changes that we can do. And also, another suggestion that we have is relating to eating on the go, which I'm sure you have to do quite often as skippers. Things like that here, where you can bring your own mug to work to take away hot drinks, or when you're on a holiday, when you're sailing. Also, don't forget that a lot of plastic liners in takeaway cups are not suitable for recycling. So make sure you check that before you use takeaway cups. Also, choose establishments that use biodegradable or recyclable food packaging, and make sure you carry your own reusable water bottles to refill with tap water or at water coolers when these are available. And also refuse extra utensils that you don't need, or drinking straws, for example, or plastic cutlery, and dispose of waste correctly, of course, if it cannot be recycled or composted where possible. And again, avoid single-use plastic, and make sure that you're able to recycle it when possible. Things like that you can do that not just as skippers, but like I said earlier, it's things like this that we can all do in our daily lives that will make even the smallest difference in our lives, but it will have a huge impact on the environment. So being ocean literate is not just about knowing how you affect the ocean, but also by taking action. This is the most important thing. So to wrap up, I guess what we wanted to say and what the important message is not only what is urgent today is that for everyone to understand, of course, but to act as responsible citizens. And one way to achieve this is by becoming ocean literate. And to become ocean literate, what it means is that you need to understand the essential principles and the concepts about the ocean and how you affect it, the effect that the ocean has on you, and the effect that you have on the ocean with your daily actions and your daily, what you do in your daily life affects the ocean. You also need to be able to communicate about the ocean in a meaningful way and to understand what the ocean offers you and how you affect it. And of course, to be able to make informed and responsible decision regarding the ocean and its resources. But in the end, the most important thing is to be able to act and to take action. That's our key message today. So if you do have any questions or any comments that you'd like to make, of course, feel free to contact us either at IndigoMed. You've got our email addresses. There it is. Or at MedSkippers as well. We would like to thank you very much for attending the webinar. We're very grateful that you have been with us today. But of course, the floor is open for any questions or comments that you'd like to make. And of course, the floor is open for discussion and anything you'd like to add or comment on or ask any questions. So thank you very much for your attention, and please feel free to ask any questions or add your opinion to any of the above. Thank you.